Navigation. Navigation is a pretty big part of any bike tour. Figuring out how you're going to get from A to B is kind of vital. So in this video, we'll take a look at how we navigate and the tools that we use on a long-term bike tour. Alright, welcome to the first video filmed and edited in my new workspace. It's a little bit bare at the minute, but we'll get there. Apologies in advance for the sound quality in this video. I'm still experimenting with how to get it sounding right in this room, so it might sound a little bit off at the minute. So I'd just like to give a quick shout out to Jess. Jess was our first ever Patreon supporter and she suggested this video. If you'd like to support the channel, then the Patreon link is in the description below. Alright, let's do some navigation. Okay, so first we'll take a look at a couple of the navigation tools that we used on the road, and then we'll get into how we actually use them. Both of these are available as apps on Android or Apple. I'm just going to use them in the browser at the minute, just because it's easier to show you guys. So the first app we're going to take a look at is Komoot. We used Komoot exclusively for the first part of our tour from Perth to Victoria. And it's a pretty powerful piece of software. So what Komoot is really great at is when you want to get from A to B and you want the software to do all the work for you. Komoot will route you based on where other cyclists are riding. Now, whether it does this by looking at the rides that have been uploaded to it, or whether it does this from routes that people are creating, or a combination of the pair, I'm not sure, but it is very effective. So a great example of this is if we just go into Perth. Now just ignore all these kind of red icons dotted about the place at the minute. We'll get into those in a minute. So if we zoom into Perth, day one, our first day on the bikes out of the city, we started here. That's the cheap motel that we stayed in. And we rode out to here, Lake Lesser. So we just click there, set as destination. And there you go. Komoot has just figured it out. So if we zoom in down here, you'll see that it's brought us along. You can just about make out the text there. This is a bike path. So it's taken us down a bunch of bike lanes out of the city. And then it's taken us through John Forest National Park here, which is a rail trail. And then along here is the railway reserves. So it's basically taken us on bike paths and rail trails as much as possible. Now, one place where Komoot can trip up is if there aren't a lot of people riding in the area. So if we go out here, all these are actually mountain bike trails. And this was actually a bit of an issue for us on day one, because instead of just taking us up this dirt road around here, it actually took us through the bike park, and it ended up being less than ideal on loaded touring bikes. So you do need to watch out for that. But if you just give the route a once over before you ride it, it's very easy to drag this here and just correct it like that. And that's basically how we navigated for the entire first part of our tour. We would just figure out where we needed to go, whether that was a campsite or, you know, an attraction we wanted to see, whatever it was, and we would just let Komoot do the work. Once you've done that, you can just click Save Tour up here in the corner, and then you can either use the app on your phone to navigate, or you can send it to your GPS unit, like your Garmin, Wahoo, whatever. So as you've already seen, it's very easy to modify the route if you need to. If we don't want to go along the railway reserves here and we decide we want to go on this main road for whatever reason, easy enough to just drag it like that. Another thing you can do, say we want to go through Mundaring on the way through, we want to stop at this pub or whatever it is, you can click, say include en route, and it'll include it. Really simple to use. So now let's talk about these little red icons. These are what are called highlights. Now every time you complete a ride using Komoot, the app gives you the option to create a highlight. Now a highlight could be a nice campsite you found, or a good restaurant or cafe, or a bike shop, any number of things that could be useful to someone who's on a bike tour. So if we just look at a couple over here, what's this? So there's normally a tooltip that pops up saying what it is, but I'm having some issues with it at the minute. I don't know what's going on. But if we just click on this, you can see Railway Reserves Heritage Trail. It's most likely created by this guy. A bunch of people have ridden it and recommended it. People have added photos and people have added comments and tips on it. If we have a look over here, the Parky Pit Stop. We added this one. Just a little shop on the trail where you can pick up some supplies on the way through. And if you decide you want to go there, again, you can just click the Include on Route button and it'll modify the route to take you through there. So when you're planning a tour with Komoot, it's worth keeping an eye out for these highlights, particularly if they have this icon of someone who's very upright on a bicycle, because that means it's a touring highlight. You can also create mountain biking highlights, road cycling, or even hiking highlights. But these are the ones we were interested in, obviously. All right, so another quick example. After we'd ridden the Munda Biddy, the little top section of the Munda Biddy, we stayed at Casuarina. I think we might have stayed on this road here, actually. So we click, we say start here. Now, if you're using the app to create this, you can actually just use the GPS on your phone to say start from my location. So anyway, we can click there. Now we were heading down to the Thrombolites, which is here. I created this highlight, but at the time we didn't have that, so we just had to find it and click on the map. Set as destination. And I reckon that's probably the route that we took there. Now it looks like it's taking us along the highway down here, but there's actually a bike highway at the side. It's this super fast and smooth bike lane. So you can see that Komoot has done the heavy lifting here and taken us on the best bike-friendly way possible. So as you can see, Komoot is super easy to use. It does the heavy lifting for you, and it made the first part of our tour, when we were getting to grips with it, so much less stressful. Okay, so now let's take a look at our second navigation tool, RideWithGPS. RideWithGPS is what I mainly use these days for planning, and I really enjoy the advanced features that it offers. Okay, so let's just get in here. Let's go down to the Otways. Did a lot of riding down there. So I guess the first thing I'll mention is that right now I'm viewing it through the RideWithGPS map, and as you can see, all these blue lines are bike trails, which is really handy because it will route you through bike lanes and bike trails and stuff like that by default. But if I click in the top right corner here, I can actually change it to Google Maps, which is helpful for obvious reasons. I can change it to satellite view, which is really handy when you're planning an off-grid segment or a segment where there isn't a road or the road isn't on the map. You've got OSM, which is great, OSM Cycle, which is the same thing but with bike trails added. You've got OSM Outdoor, you've got Topo Maps, it really is great. It really does offer a lot of utility with the different maps that you can use. So let's just stick with the RideWithGPS map for now. So say we want to start in forest, we're going to start here. If you're just going for a lap, you just want to plan a route, it's easy enough to, just click around like this. You save it, and then you can, again, navigate from the app on your phone, or you can upload it to your Garmin, your Wahoo, whatever. All right, so let's take a look at some of the more advanced route editing features here. So in Atherton, a lot of my rides start on the rail trail here, go through town, and out the top end. But as you can see, the rail trail is in here, but the town section of the rail trail hasn't actually been added to the map. So in order to ride this section, you have to actually use satellite view, and instead of using the cycling routing over here on the right, you actually have to click draw lines and manually click through, which is kind of frustrating. But if we just clear the map here, I've actually already done that once and then saved it. So now anytime I want to ride the start like that, I can just head up here to the left corner, hit import existing, type default, and you can see that I've labeled a bunch of default sections that I use in planning my rides. So we'll do Atherton Rail Trail Town section, add to planner, and there you go, there it is. And from there we can just continue on. Oops, I've still got it in draw line mode. Undo that. You can just continue on and you can, you know, do your ride wherever you're gonna go. Another section I've done that is down here. So there's actually a trail that goes all the way through here. And again, it's not on the map, so I saved it. I can just add that to the planner. So you can see that it's actually starting at the top and it's finishing in the south. So if we want, we can actually reverse that down here, reverse route, spin it round. And then if we actually click this green dot here, it'll actually link it up to the route we just created. So you can have a bunch of segments saved, you can join stuff together, there's all sorts of good stuff you can do with this. So here's another example. This is the big like 470k route that's been developed up here. And the other day I decided I wanted to go out of Atherton and I wanted to just ride this section over here to Youngborough, around here, and then cut back. I just wanted to do a little recce ride, check out the start and see what kind of condition it's in. So with the tools we've got, it's very easy to just use the split route function, click where we want to be, and then just delete the other section on the right here. And there you go, we've got the start of our ride. And from there, it's very easy to just choose the way we want to come back home. Now in this bit of trail, I've got another one of my default sections saved, the Hasty Swamp section. We can reverse that and link it up. And that's how I created my Saturday morning ride. So now that we have this route created, we could maybe add some points of interest. So the POI button over here, say for example, okay, so over here, there's actually a creek crossing in here, which has a causeway and it's normally great, but in the wet season, it gets kind of washed out. So we can, you know, we can add bars, we can add aid stations, we can add also camping. So we're gonna add a caution. I'm gonna call it creek crossing. And for a description, we could just put something like causeway can be washed out in wet season. Save it. And there you go, we've added a point of interest. So adding a point of interest can be great for your own use, you know, if there's just something you want to try and remember about a route that you're riding, or if you're putting the route out there to the public, it could be some valid information that they would need to know. So I don't know if that was the best demonstration, but hopefully it just shows you a little bit of what RideWithGPS can do. It's a lot more utilitarian than Komoot. You've got a lot more fine control and much more powerful tools at your disposal, but it is a bit more complicated. Whereas Komoot will do everything for you, RideWithGPS, you're kind of on your own. All right, so let's quickly touch on Google Maps. Now, Google Maps, we don't really use for creating routes whatsoever, but it does have its uses. For example, say maybe we're in a town like Adelaide, and we're going to be staying in Adelaide for a few days, which we did. It's quite useful for like quick and dirty directions to get you around town. It's a lot better than it was, and if you set it to bicycle mode, it will take you down bike paths. It will usually be okay, but I wouldn't ever trust it for navigating between towns or for any sort of long distance cycling. Now, a feature of Google Maps that we do use quite a lot is the satellite view. And the reason we use the satellite view quite a lot is just for finding places to camp. If you haven't got a legitimate campsite lined up, or warm showers, or caravan park, anything like that, using satellite view is a great way to find a forest that you can hide in or a little patch of land where you can put the tent up. So a good example of this was when we were cycling up the east coast of Tassie. Now we went to this brewery, Iron House Brewery. Now on this particular day, we hadn't managed to find any campsites and we saw this brewery. So we thought maybe we'll go to the brewery, we'll have a beer and we'll ask if we can camp there. And if not, maybe they can point us in the right direction. And wouldn't you know it, we got to the brewery and it's on a resort. So they wouldn't let us camp there, and when we asked them where we could camp, they didn't know. So we turned to satellite view. So up the coast here a little bit, we spotted this. So this looks like a little bit of, I don't know, like a bit of parking or beach access or something. But we thought it looks like there's lots of little nooks and stuff. It's all grassy. It looks like a perfect place to put up a tent. So we turned up there and it was a complete mess. All the grass was like chest high, completely overgrown, weeds. There was nowhere flat to put the tent. And on top of that, there were gale force winds coming in off the sea, smashing into us. So we went back to Google Maps and spotted this little park over here. It looks like there's maybe a cricket field or something. So we just rode down here along this little path over the little bridge. And those of you who've watched our videos of Tassie will know that we actually found a little nook in here and that's where we camped. So Google Maps Satellite View is great for that kind of thing. Now the last tool that we're going to take a look at today is WikiCamps. So WikiCamps is an amazing app and it was so invaluable during our time touring Australia. Basically, it's an interactive map of Australia that shows you where to find campsites. And being a wiki, anyone who has it can add things and maintain it, as well as uploading pictures and leaving reviews. So it also shows hostels, caravan parks, day use areas, points of interest, water sources. It really is useful. Now, WikiCamps is only available in Australia, but there is another app called iOverlander, which serves a similar purpose and is available globally. Okay, so we've taken a quick look at the tools that we use, so let's put them to work. Okay, so let's start with Komoot. This is completely unrehearsed, so we'll see how this goes. Let's do a little trip, a little imaginary trip from Geelong. So let's see. Oh, is this Johnston Park? Okay, from Johnston Park to Echuca. Okay, so we'll go to Echuca and we'll go to the train station so we can get the train back again. Okay, so Komoot creates our route here. Okay, so already I don't like this. It's going into Melbourne for some kind of reason. I'd rather... Let's go through all these little towns over here. Maybe not Bendigo because it's kind of big, or Ballarat. We'll go through like Daylesford, Castlemaine, stuff like that. So in Daylesford, what's this? The mill markets, okay, we'll include that. Looking good. Castlemaine, what's this? Ah, the mill, there's a brewery there, perfect. Okay, that looks pretty good so far. So that's 272k, so we'll call that a leisurely 3 days. So now we need to figure out where we're going to camp. So if we bring this up, you can see above the elevation, it's got the distances. So if we go around 100k, which is here, so Daylesford's basically 100k in, so we want to be camping somewhere around Daylesford. So potentially you could just get a hotel there. Alternatively, let's look at our old friend WikiCamps. All right, so we've got WikiCamps open and we're zoomed in on Daylesford. So, do we have any campsites around here? Okay, there's one in the town, the old campground Lake Daylesford. Let's see the reviews. Site as described does not exist. Couldn't find it. Yeah, maybe not. Okay, good thing there's reviews. So what's this down here? Wombat Station. Only thing in the area was a covered rotunda, very isolated, which some people might like. Close to walking tracks. Yeah, that sounds fine. Okay, so Wombat Station. All right, so I've found the location of that camp, and that is right here. In fact, there it is there. So we're going to include that on the route, and that is our camp for night 1. So, failing that, Komoot actually has a satellite view too. It's just kind of clunky, so I don't use it. But I mean, if that ends up not being a good campsite, there's a lot of forest here, a lot of tracks, all the way basically into Daylesford. So if that doesn't work out, there's plenty of stealth camping opportunities there. Okay, so that camp is at 97k. So we want our next one to be kind of before 200. So 200k is basically putting us on the east side of Bendigo. So this is where we want to have a look for somewhere to camp. Back to WikiCamps. Okay, so if we have a look around Bendigo, there's a campsite here. No access except by foot or bike next to irrigation channel. So this is actually a campsite on the Goldfields track, which we're not going to want to go into. That's going to be some rough going, so we'll skip on that one. Maybe this one looks pretty good. Gunya picnic area. Nice area to camp, established fire pits, small dam. Yeah, that looks great. Yeah, that'll work perfectly. Okay, so we'll just find that on the map. All right, so I've located that, so we just include that on the route. Now from there, our next stop would be Echuca. That's basically it. But just to play on the safe side, we'll have a look and see if we can find a campsite this side of Echuca, just in case we don't make our mileage. All right, so I found this campsite, this side of Echuca. It looks pretty awesome. The reviews are all great. So we'll just find that. That's north of Rochester, somewhere around here. All right, this is it here. So we'll include that. So don't know if I want to ride just that straight down the main road like that. So we'll bring this in here down to these back roads. Like that. And then from there, maybe we'll do the same going into Echuca. Just sort of manipulate this out here like that. That'll work. And that's basically it. So there we go. We've got a 3-day bike route from Geelong to Echuca where you can get the train back again. Now, I would probably go over this a couple of times in the lead up to the actual ride, just finding points of interest, things that I would like to see, maybe finding where the shops are, and go over the roads we're taking as well, just to make sure they're not going to be too busy or they're not going to be too rough. The satellite view is great for that. You can check the road surfaces and where you're going and just kind of give it a once over before you commit. All right, so for Ride with GPS, I thought instead of going through this process of creating a route again, maybe we'll just take a look at some pre-existing ones. So this is a route that was created by my mate Jeff, OGG 3-Day Eastern Otway Adventure. So OGG is the Altway Gravel Grinders, which is a group I would sometimes ride with down in Victoria. So this is really simple. Jeff's created this route and he's just color coded it based on the day. So day 1's ride from Geelong is in red, day 2's in blue, day 3's in pink. So if we zoom in at the end of day 1 and start of day 2, you can see we've got Hammond Road campsite. Then we'll have a look at the end of day 2, Air Crossing campsite. And at which point you land in Colac. So both Colac and Geelong both have train stations, so you can go either way. So that's pretty simple, but it's quite a smart way of dividing the route up day by day. So next we have a route by Ryan Wilson. So Ryan Wilson is constantly traveling all over the world, and all the routes that he rides he makes publicly available so that other people can have a go too. So as you can see, he's made this in RideWithGPS and he's added all these points of interest along the way to help anyone who's going to be riding the same route. So like you can see here, we've got hotels, we've got resupply, shops, we've even got a little danger sign here, very rough descent with some walking, good to know. Bishkek's at the start, big city, bike shops, supermarkets, etc. Down here we've got a note, border zone, permit required in advance. That's pretty important to know. What we got here? Be aware of old barbed wire fence lying on the ground throughout this area. Climbing through the forest. So we've got some photo opportunities here, spectacular views everywhere. So great use of points of interest from Ryan Wilson. All right, last up, we've got a route that I've been working on. This is a work in progress, it's not finished. And this is a route that I would like to ride one day. Who knows when, maybe never, but I would like to. From Cooktown to the tip of Australia. So to create this, I knew that I wanted to ride the old telegraph track. So that's this section up here, up the side of the Jardine National Park. So I already knew that existed. All I needed to do was put it into RideWithGPS. And the start out of Cooktown, I didn't want to ride up the main road. I didn't think that'd be too great. So this section here through Lakefield National Park, I actually got from the Terra Australis bike epic. So that's a bike route from the northernmost point of Australia to the southernmost tip. And this is the way that that route goes. So I just copied that section for my own route. So once I'd done that, I went on Google Maps and checked out where all the roadhouses and towns were, and I've marked them all on here. Archer River Roadhouse, camping at Morton Telegraph Station, Bramwell Roadhouse. Bramwell Roadhouse is the last chance saloon to get what you need before you get onto the telegraph track. And beyond there, I've added some warning signs. So right here, we've got Palm Creek Crossing, which apparently is a really challenging crossing. And up here we've got Gunshot, which is a really famous creek crossing with like a deep gully that you need to go into. And I learned about these from actually a four-wheel driving blog. This route is frequented by four-wheel drive enthusiasts who want to test their driving and test their vehicles. So all these creek crossings, whilst challenging for them, probably aren't that bad on a bike, because rather than taking the main line through, you can just go around. So further on, we've got a lagoon, nice photo op. Fruitbat Falls, that's a pretty famous stop. In here we have Elliott Falls, and there's a campsite there. But again, on these four-wheel drive blogs, I found out that you could camp here to dodge the crowds at Elliott Falls. So, you know, it's all about doing your homework. More camping, more camping. You know, the telegraph track crosses the Jardine River here, but if I was to try that, I would probably die. And other people have died, which is why they have the Jardine River Ferry now. So there's this detour around. Now, once you get up here, I've put the 3 resupply points, the 3 towns up here, Bamaga, Umajigo, and Seychelles. And then I've added the telegraph station and the car park for the tip. And from the car park, there's a walking track up to the tip. So like I said, this one isn't finished. I'll still add more points of interest. I might even edit this bit of routing through Lakefield. This is a work in progress, but it kind of shows you what goes into planning a trip like this, where resupplies are sparse, water can be an issue, there are hazardous creek crossings. This is probably about as involved as I get with RideWithGPS. Okay, so finally let's take another quick look at Google Maps and how we've actually used that in the past. So let's zoom in down to here. So on our trip coming up north, we rode from Gladstone round down here through Mowra and all this stuff to Rolleston. And then we rode up this road to Blackwater, and then from Blackwater back this way to Rocky. So when we rode this, we really didn't need to plan anything in terms of directions. There's just one highway out, and then you take a right turn, and then you take another right turn, and it's one highway back. Pretty simple, but what we did need to work out was the distances we were going to go and where we were going to stop and camp every day. So what I might do for this is start off at the first place we camped at. We camped here at the Boomerang Caravan and Tourist Park. So now that we've got our starting point, we'll take a look at WikiCamps again and see where we can camp along the way. All right, so I've opened WikiCamps. So from below there, if we scroll along the road, we can see there's a camp here. Banana gravel site. Okay, so we need to address this. WikiCamps is used a lot by the caravanning fraternity. It's very popular with the grey nomads and people who are traveling by car. So they tend to put stuff like gravel sites up, which is just a spot where you can park your caravan if you're self-contained. Obviously this isn't great for us, so that's something to be aware of. All right, moving on. So Banana has Sutherland Hall. If we hit fees, so that's a $5 donation. Basic camp, bit quiet, noisy, but quiet down overnight. Okay, looks great. So we've got camping at Sutherland Hall in Banana. And then we've got camping at Mowra. And then we've got camping at Mowra at the Rotary Park, 72-hour stays. Camping at the Mowra Apex Park, which was pretty close to Mowra. Down the road, I reckon this is another gravel pit, so we'll keep move on. Camping at Bauhinia at the Roadhouse, another gravel pit. Nothing at Rolleston other than a rest area in the wrong direction and another gravel pit far out the north side. Okay, so we've located all the legitimate campsites along the route, so let's have a look and see if we can make that work. Okay, so from Bilola, the first legitimate campsite we could stay at is in Banana. So what we'll do here is from the place we were already at, if we just hit directions, and then we can choose our starting point by clicking on Banana. And we'll just click this button to reverse that. So that's only 45k, which isn't enough. We need to be making more mileage than that. So the next point was Mowra. Now we can just drag this along to Mowra and we find out that that's 65k. That's a bit more like it, but it's still a bit short. So the next one was here at the Apex Park. So if we drag this along here, Google Maps will tell us that that is 73k. That's more like it. That's a pretty good day's ride. Now if we drag over to Bauhinia, the next campsite, 140k, that's way too much. So it looks like we're probably going to aim for the Apex Park. So in the end, what we ended up doing here was we decided that when we rode through Mowra, we would have a look at the free camp there, see how good it was. And if it was too good to pass up, we would just stay there. And if it wasn't good, then we would chance the Apex Park. So as it turns out, we landed in Maura and the campsite there was great. There was hardly anyone there, it was quiet, the town had facilities. We ended up going out for a curry, so perfect. And then the next morning we rode past the Apex Park and it was swamped. There was a queue for the toilets. Like, there were just so many people there. And therein lies a small lesson in bike touring. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. If you see an amazing spot to camp at, and it's either that or ride another 10K, just take it. For the sake of 10 kilometers, just take it while the getting's good. Okay, so moving on. Next camp was at Bauhinia, which is 75K. Ideal, so we'll just camp there. Now, from Bauhinia, the next town is Rolleston. So how far is that? So that's 76K. So that's pretty decent, but we've got more in the tank to get out and do a stealth camp, which is what we're probably going to need to do. So what happened here was we got to Rolleston and the lady at the coffee stand put us on to the race course out the north end of town and how that would be a perfect place to camp. No one would bother us, and there's even a toilet and a shower there that's used by the truckers that we could use. So that is right here, Rolleston Racecourse. So if we click there, hit directions, and the next stop is Blackwater. So Blackwater, 123K, that's a bit of an ask. So what we'll do, we'll check out if there are any potential stealthy spots along the way by using satellite view. So roundabout here is about 85K. And it's all mine sites, so we can't camp anywhere around here. About 100K in, maybe we could camp in this scrub here, maybe that'll work. So make a note of that, 85K in, keep an eye out. There's another mine, so we can't camp there. About 113. Potential stealth camp here, this looks pretty good, 113. And at that point, if we keep going, we might as well just ride into Blackwater, which is what we ended up doing. That day we left really early and I think we'd done like 90K by 1 in the afternoon or something. So we just kept going and got to Blackwater. So once we were in Blackwater, we needed to find somewhere to camp. So we sat in this little Lions Park here and chilled for a bit while I was looking at Google Maps and trying to figure out where we could go. And after scanning around the town a little bit, I found this like bit of sort of wasteland over here. So we decided to take a gamble on it. So we rode along this street here, right as the sun was setting and it was starting to get dark. And stopped here, had a quick look around, no one was looking, so we dashed across the road and rode up this track way into here, and we had a little stealth camp in these trees. So hopefully that's a good example of how we used Google Maps to work out the distances between towns and campsites, and also how we use satellite view to find a potential stealth camp. So just one last word on WikiCamps. Now, I know I've used WikiCamps heavily in this video, and we used it heavily when we were on tour, but it isn't strictly necessary. For the first part of our trip, right up to Victoria, we didn't even have WikiCamps. We relied on typing campsite into Google Maps, or just using satellite view to find an appropriate spot. So you don't actually need it, it's just such a good app that when you're in Australia, it makes sense. Alright guys, I hope that was helpful. It really isn't that complicated. It's just a case of finding where you want to go and connecting the dots. Now it definitely pays to be flexible. We've seen people plan an entire itinerary of an entire month of cycling day by day, and then day 3 they have a mechanical or they don't make their mileage and it throws the entire month off. So by doing it how we do it and navigating just one day at a time, it really gives you that flexibility and you can change your plans at a moment's notice. Now, if you have any questions, please drop them below and we'd be happy to answer whatever we can. And if you found this video useful, hit the like button, consider subscribing. We're going to be uploading a lot more bike touring related content. If you haven't watched our Bike Tour of Australia series yet, I'll put a link up in the corner. Thanks again to Jess for suggesting this one. This was a great idea. And thanks for watching. Cheers.